Hello YouTube. It's been a while, but I'm happy to be back, and I want to go ahead and make you guys a nice nut job of the week this week. So here goes. This week's nut job of the week is George Bush's budget chief, Jim Nussle. He blamed the bipartisan stimulus package for the record $482 billion deficit that's predicted for the 2009 budget year. Now, don't get me wrong, I certainly think that a debate about whether or not the stimulus package was the best way to approach the problem is a good debate to be having. But for a man who should be bearing a large amount of responsibility for our current economic situation, to make such a generalized comment that is frankly very far from the truth is ridiculous. So to put it into context, let me talk about some of the other things that Mr. Nussle should have mentioned as a contributing factor to our gigantic deficit. $20 billion a year is spent on the war on drugs, a war that, according to every comprehensive objective study done, has not decreased drug usage or importation in the slightest. In fact, drug usage has gone up over the past 20 years. So, in essence, what we're doing is flushing $20 billion of government money down the drain every year. But don't blame that, according to Jim Nussle. $18 billion a year goes to subsidies for the private oil companies, which, literally speaking, is an example of corporate welfare or socialism for the private sector. Now, one would think that with the oil companies receiving all this money, we've probably made fantastic breakthroughs in renewable energy, so we can make a clean transition away from foreign oil when the time is right. But we haven't. And all the government dollars we've given to ExxonMobil and Chevron are not being reinvested into renewable energy. And all of this is happening as the oil companies see record profits. The military budget is $475 billion, and our nearest competitor on the planet is $70 billion. Now, this one is kind of self-explanatory to reasonable people, so I don't need to go into details. But let's just say that if you have half a brain, you probably see a problem with this. $426 billion have gone towards pork barrel spending and earmarks for special projects, including things like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, the Grammy Foundation, Alaska statehood celebrations, mariachi music courses, seafood processing plants, film festivals, and Christian broadcasting radio stations in Madagascar. So again, that's $426 billion of your tax dollars and my tax dollars that we give to things that the government really shouldn't have any involvement in. And it doesn't matter if you're a conservative or if you're a liberal, if you're a Democrat or a Republican. I think we can all agree that things like film festivals shouldn't really be government run when we have people without health care. Rich people in the U.S. have kept $1.5 trillion in overseas bank accounts where they don't have to pay taxes. It's estimated that we're losing $100 billion in tax revenue because these rich people won't do their patriotic duty of paying taxes like you and I do. So this is something that our representatives, including Jim Nussle, should be all over. But I'm fairly sure you won't hear a peep out of him. Instead, like he did, he'll blame things like the stimulus package. Lastly, and probably most important, is our general tax policy. Warren Buffett, I don't know if you guys heard about this, actually issued a challenge to CEOs in the U.S. that if they could prove to him that they pay more in taxes percentage-wise than their secretaries do, that he would give them $1 million. And not one CEO has been able to collect, because not one CEO pays more money percentage-wise than their secretaries do. Just to give you some anecdotal evidence of that, Buffett says that he pays about 17% in taxes, and his secretary pays about 30% in taxes. So, like I said, I'm more than happy to have a rational debate about whether or not the stimulus package was the best way to approach the problem of a faltering economy. But can we please prioritize and discuss the really stupid and wasteful spending first? Because in all seriousness, the $600 that was given to middle-class Americans and lower-class Americans as part of this stimulus package is money that went to paying bills that needed to get paid. So, if we were going to be pointing at one thing and saying that one thing, if we were going to generalize and say that one thing is responsible for the economy being in the terrible shape that it's in today, instead of pointing at the stimulus package, I think we should point at the war. Thanks for watching. This is Secular Talk.